taking on a fearful appearance, but they're also reminding themselves of death, constantly reminding themselves of death. Death is a great fear for most people. And if you're practicing a sort of bhakti that allows you to face death directly, you'll do it by surrounding yourself with things that remind you of death. And so, of course, if you cover your entire body in human ashes, you're going to remind yourself of death consistently. And in developing your meditation, your Kriya state, you can overcome that fear. Part of the practice of overcoming that fear is worship of Tarama, who is a very important deity within the Aghori tradition. In fact, all of the Mahavidyas, all of the tantric left-hand manifestations of Shakti are important. Though the Aghoris bring their awareness to Shiva in the ascending path, they are not limited to worshipping Shiva. In fact, all gods become accessible to you on the Aghori path, because through Aghori you are removing discrimination. So you are able to explore all things. Some things are not going to work for you, but other things will. And those things that do work for you, you should embrace. And it doesn't matter what society thinks about those things, unless, of course, it is your dharma to care about society, which it is the dharma of some to do this. But for others, the social order is a great hindrance. And for almost all, the social order is a great hindrance, because the social order is controlled by forces that want to suppress Aryanism. And the Aghori practice is radical Aryanism, a radical reconnection with Aryanism. Drug use. Drug use is extremely common amongst the Aghoris, specifically cannabis. Cannabis is consumed in insane quantities. Sometimes an Aghori will roll a massive blunt and practice nadi shodhana, taking the smoke in through their nostrils. They will stay high all day in sacrament. Marijuana is the drug that is used most commonly in puja to Shiva, because it is a drug that can induce contemplative states. It is a bridge to contemplation. But the Aghori also consume insane quantities of alcohol within the cremation grounds. From skull caps, kapila, they drink from human skulls. So they get high smoking a shitload of weed, and then they drink a shitload of alcohol, and they practice sadhana in this way. They are exposing themselves to poisons. They are practicing ritual use of drugs in order to explore altered states of consciousness, in order to commune with the gods, and also to have a good time. These things are not mutually exclusive. The Aghori will often go nude because they don't want to feel shame for their bodies. Shame is a barrier to knowing God, to knowing oneness. So if you can strip yourself of that shame by exposing your nude body to the world, then it is a worthwhile practice. Methuna, sex rites, are very common in the cremation grounds, and this can include public acts of sex, orgies. Oftentimes, when sex practices are integrated by the Aghoris in the cremation grounds, orgasm is reached. Semen retention is rarely practiced by the Aghoris because they view Amrita, semen, as a very powerful substance that is given in communion with the gods, consumed by male and female Aghoris alike, along with shit and piss and blood. Because, like I said, all things are considered to be divine. Of course, these are the most extreme examples of the practice, but they're the most interesting, right? You want to be exposed to the extremes, or at least you want to be able to know that somebody's doing it, because for some, their dharma is to reach the greatest points of extremity. on both sides of the spectrum so that they can come back to everyone else and say, hey guys, I made it. Guess what's on the other side? Some pretty cool shit. It's all part of playing your role in the cosmic symphony, deciding what point of extremity you need to land at. And if you're practicing Aghori Yoga, you can land at any point. Now, I'm going to reveal something to you all that is a heavily occulted aspect of the Aghori tradition. And I'm going to discuss the meaning of this. And that is the SHAVA Sadhana. SHAVA Sadhana is meditation upon the corpse. It is regarded to be the most dangerous practice that any yogin can involve themselves in. Because you're dealing with the spirit of another human being directly. And you're dealing with this spirit in death, which opens certain doors that are very dangerous, sometimes deadly to open. With the SHAVA Sadhana, what occurs is the Aghori finds a body. This body can be obtained in any way. They take the body to a lonely place. The forest, the battlefield, the cremation ground, and in isolation, they meditate with the body. The fresher the corpse, the better. Oftentimes, the Aghori will chant mantra over the body. And then after a period of sleeping next to the body, meditating next to the body, the Aghori will sit in meditation on top of the body. Now, what is the purpose of this? Well, there's actually many potential applications of SHAVA Sadhana, or sadhana, sorry. I'm mixing Shavasana with sadhana. SHAVA Sadhana. There are many potential applications. One is the one that really freaks people out, and that is the capturing of a soul. It is possible, through the proper techniques, the proper practices, the proper rites, to take control of a human soul after it dies and command it. Some Aghoris, this is what they are attempting to do. This can easily lead to madness. It's a very dangerous practice. Should not be practiced by any initiate who has not yet completed the right-hand path. And it should be approached with great caution for everyone else. The greater practice, well, not greater, but the more occulted practice is the understanding of immortality. Immortality is the ultimate goal of SHAVA Sadhana. When you meditate upon the corpse, you're sitting on the corpse. What you are doing is you are contrasting your condition as a living being with this body. Simultaneously, you are recognizing that this body was alive recently. What is the difference between this form that is in death and the form that it had assumed just days before? What is the difference? How can you know the difference? Knowing the difference, being aware of the difference between the living form and the dying form, is the goal of this practice. By practicing meditation on the corpse, what you're doing is you're identifying the pranic signature of the corpse. Oftentimes, the corpse that is selected for this practice is the corpse of a loved one. For example, the yogin's elderly mother or father passes away, and they take the body and they meditate upon the body and they sit on the belly of the body and they observe this loved one in death. What are they doing? They're contrasting the energetic signature of their loved one when that person was living with this new form in death. Why would you do this? When you die, you will cross over into a new dimension of consciousness. And when you do this, there will be a question of whether or not the things that you are experiencing in this new dimension are illusion. How can you know that your loved one who has passed on before you, who you have met on the other side, how can you know that that's really them? Maybe it's just an illusion. There is a way you can know. To know the self, to know each aspect of consciousness, to understand the chakras, and to be able to recognize the consciousness of those things that are precious to you, will allow you to confidently say that your unification with your loved one or loved ones in this new plane of existence is not an illusion. It is real. You have succeeded in achieving immortality with awareness. That awareness is great power. It is the greatest power. It is the ability to achieve godhood. And that is the goal of the Aghori tradition. To become a god.